Welcome to the first episode of the Cougar Playbook podcast. I'm Carter Gledhill. Along with me is Macy Klein, co-host, and to our bottom is our very first guest, CUC sports broadcaster Ryan Fahey.
Well, that was rather under dramatic in the clapping department, but happy to be here.
So Ryan, it's been a while since we've done a sporting event at CUC. No spring athletics. Last time we called an event was basketball, but how you doing?
I'm good. I'm as good as you can be. The CIT that we did feels like ages ago, based on everything that's going on. Thankfully, during this time, I've still been able to work with the Schaumburg Boomers, which is one of my many jobs. And I'm sure we'll probably get into that a little bit later on. Been able to stay, busy. We're doing a virtual opening night this Friday, so I've been working with the team on putting all that together. Other than that, just like everyone else, waiting for sports to kind of bring us back to a little normalcy, and we all kind of need that. And after the Last Dance, the final two episodes there last night, I woke up this morning, I'm thinking to myself, what else is there to do now in terms of what's on TV? So kind of back in that little realm of, what's on TV that's new, per se.
Yeah, I think 30 for 30 starting something like every Sunday. They're going to put a new one out. Biggest one I'm looking forward to is the home run race between Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa. That's going to be one that's coming out soon. So that'll be exciting. But CIT, that was a long time ago. I think that was fun for us because we got to call Macy when she was on the court. And I think you and I always have the pleasure of when Macy ever gets in the game, we bring the energy and we crank it up a notch just because, we got to root for our own people.
That's definitely something I look forward to after the game and watching like the whole run through of everything and just hearing Carter and Ryan just like, hey, we know her. And I just love hearing that.
Well, I remember the first game of I think it was the first game of the CIT, or maybe it was the first game I called for the women's side of things this year. I don't know if it was Carter or CJ. Somebody brought it up to me that like your family enjoyed the extra hype up that Carter and I gave, and then we got to meet your family at CIT.
Oh, yeah.
And then I remember when we met your family, I know you got as red as these Cougars gear that we're wearing.
I was like, oh, no, what are they going to say about me to my parents?
I just remember I remember the text that you sent me. We were hyping it up because we were going to say we were going to go crazy when you score your first collegiate basket. And it happened on the road. And I just remember you sending me the text and you're not going to believe what happened. And I'm like, did you score? And
it wasn't an on the road game. I don't know where you guys were. I texted Ryan and I was like, hey, you kind of missed it. I scored my –
If I remember correctly, wasn't it against Edgewood and it was CJ all by himself, right?
Yep.
Oh, it was.
I think it was, because I remember getting a video. I don't know if Macy texted me it or it was CJ. Somebody texted me it, and it was kind of like later in the night, and I'm like, what the heck is, I think it was CJ that texted me. I was like, what the heck is he texting me at like 11 o'clock at night for? I look at it the next morning, and it's like the screen grab of that play, and that's when I texted you, Carter, that, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
I know. I remember that. I woke up and I'm like, it's my home game. Yeah.
I don't know if it was the next home game or two home games later, but I remember it was within a homestand, I think, that in that first game, Macy made the three, and then every time I called the game, she never scored since. So, I hope there's no sophomore slump in you when you return to the floor.
I don't think that'll be a problem, but just in case, you might want to come to all of them. And if that doesn't work, then maybe you shouldn't just come. Because maybe it's just bad luck.
I'll see what my schedule can offer me, and we'll go from there.
Perfect.
But Macy, even for you, you guys, Crystal Core is leaving, Annika Ray, some pretty key seniors, Michaela Thornton as well. How are you guys looking as a team communicating in the off season with Coach Martin?
So we have a lot of freshmen coming in. And I think this class, like our like my class was kind of like mostly guards, so we could like play fast and like keep like a good momentum going instead of just like, you know, kind of stopping all that like on one side of the court. But with Crystal Core leaving, that post forward spot definitely is going to need to be filled. We've got a lot of forwards coming in for the class of 2024, and I think that we'll do better with that, and we're not just going to be like a huge group of guards trying to outrun like other teams, which will be good. I'm actually very excited for this next season because there's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of like adjusting, but I think this season is going to go a lot smoother than last season for sure.
Yeah, it was, I mean, first season I called collegiate basketball. I was very grateful to have not only Ryan calling it with me, but Sam Brief as well. But I mean, I just remember the first game I did with Ryan, I had a little internal freak out because I would do the director stuff for the football games, all right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this guy's got his act together. Like, he knew exactly what was going on. I was sitting there, I'm like, oh my goodness. CJ's like, yeah, you're going to call some basketball games. I'm like, all right. And I, you know, just like you go back and look at film, I just remember I was like going over the film and I was like, the whole time. So I was very happy that I had Ryan with me because he knew how to like feed me in and everything. And by the end of the year, I was able to read some of the ads. And that was, I mean, as a color commentator, that's the highlight of a highlight right there is your 15 seconds when you get to read the Doc Ryan ad at the end of the third quarter.
No, I definitely felt the same way doing color commentating my first men's basketball game. So I was like, okay, Carter normally has all of his just crap together, and like Ryan, like listening to you up in the box, like while like me and Carter like running camera or whatever. And I'm just like, I gotta do really good because I've got like a level that I need to meet with these people. But yeah, no, CJ, like you, CJ did a good job of like feeding me in and stuff. But wow.
Well, you know, I'm flattered and I'm kind of like scared at the same time that I hope I didn't like give anybody any fear or doubt.
Oh no.
But I remember, I mean, one of the things that, and it's not like I try to be like, you know, I try to teach you guys or anything of that nature. But I always, you know, whenever it's doing, you know, Cougar games, Windy City Bulls, or any other events I'm assigned to do, you know, one of the things that I always take pride in is the prep and the research. You know, for Windy City games in particular, and what was crazy during that CIT weekend is that I had 2 Windy City games in 3 nights, and that other night that there wasn't Windy City was day 1 of the CIT.
Yeah.
So I'm up every night until, I don't know, the first night I was up till a good 2-3 in the morning. I think from what the last time I looked at my phone or at the clock in my room, because, you know, I looked at it from a perspective of that whole week I was preparing for CIT because I can only do so much prep for Windy City because they were still on the road for a couple of games. And of course I always keep up, you know, with their stats and everything. But the challenge with that weekend for me was that we had, and I have templates, and Carter, you know this, you know, better than anybody that I've done games with. I've got my own little template sheets that I fill out for every team, for every game, for any sport that I do for the most part. So for the teams that were coming in, I think it was Lakeland and Northern Arizona from the G League side of things that were coming to town that weekend. They weren't in our building at Windy City at the Sears Center Arena at all during the season. So whenever a new team comes to town, I have to make a whole new template. And I'll be honest, it kind of sucks because I was hoping it was maybe like, you know, if it was timed out well, like Grand Rapids, Wisconsin, you know, teams that we're familiar with. I don't have to really add roster. The only thing I have to change is maybe like stats for each guys and a couple, you know, storyline nuggets about the team's last 5 and 10 games respectively. But that wasn't the case. So I remember Thursday night was all CIT. Thursday night was all CIT after I got home from Windy City. And because Windy City, that prep I kind of just gradually do as the season goes along, kind of like a little wave as I try to make a wave on camera with my arm. But then I just did all my focus on CIT. Friday morning, I always do game notes for the Windy City team as well. So kind of like how Carter put together the big packet of game notes for that weekend, I was doing game notes for Windy City for the team every game home and away. So on top of that, I had to finish game notes that morning for the game that they had on Saturday. I had to send that in so early that some of the stats I couldn't update. I had to have one of the team representatives do it because I'm like, look, I got CIT coming up. I don't have time to do this. I got to prepare for all of that. And I give the assist to Carter because he actually let me borrow his template to use for that day. And, you know, I it's not to say we still couldn't have pulled it off, but a lot would have not gone as well, I don't think, if I didn't have Carter for day one of CIT. And I know he was, of course, in great hands with Sam the next day as well. But a lot of assists from that weekend comes from Carter because he honestly put my mind at ease a lot going into that Friday morning, especially when we had the breakfast in the room when it was like, because it was all of us in there, you know, Macy and her team included. And, you know, I'm in the back with CJ, and I think we were under like a heat vent, and with everything, you know, cooking up in the kitchen in River Forest, I was already sweating through my suit at like 9 o'clock in the morning. So it was off to a great start.
You look dapper. Hold on. Let me pull up a little picture here.
Oh, no.
This is the picture from – hold on. We got one more. There it is. Right there. I mean, look at us.
You can't even tell.
Look
you guys
at us.
look great.
Well, this was, I think, a good what? We took this picture.
This was CIT. This was CIT. And
Right.
I just remember that we said to each other, look, we need to take one good picture, and this needs to be done before we sweat. Because I remember we went in – it was between the games of Ann Arbor and Nebraska. It was after, I think, the women's game. In between we started going.
This wasn't after the breakfast where I had to, like, cool off and, like, go into the bathroom in the foyer. Because the bathroom in the foyer, for some reason, was ridiculously cold. And I stood in there for a good 5-10 minutes. I didn't have to use the bathroom. I just stood in there and was on my phone for a while. Because I needed to cool off.
This was the beginning of CIT. And I just remember after our second break where we went and had, like, in between the games between Ann Arbor and Nebraska, right, and then CUC and CUW, we went back into that little room in that we had, like, the reception for the breakfast. We unbuttoned our jackets. We took it off, and I had the mistake of wearing a gray shirt that day.
Ugh.
That was a tight fit anyway that we had too, because we sat crunched.
Here's the thing: the pink shirt that I'm in, you can see if there's a water. I had the same problem Carter did. The color for us was like an awful choice in this department. Had we had picked white or black, it wouldn't have been so bad in terms of, you know, public appearance. But I made sure that after the fact that weekend, I just took the suit to the cleaners, and I immediately just threw the shirt in the hamper. I was not trying to do any second trials with that after, especially after the nighttime, because when it got crowded in there for, you know, Macy's game and then the men's game that followed, I mean, woo, was it warm in there?
Yeah. This is more of us right here. I remember this was one of our final games. And that's a good picture right there by Danny.
It is.
Danny took that picture.
And by the way, can we give her a shout out, please?
Yes. Big shout out.
So much.
I am going to, there we go, resume share.
We need to have like an appreciation night for her, like when basketball has like their opener.
I agree, 100%.
I mean,
and if I'm not on the call for that, I'll just show up anyway.
Okay.
For it.
Yeah, no, I remember I saw the tweet go out, and I was very sad because, I mean, Danny was, I mean, if you talk about someone that's versatile in the communications department, Danny did write-ups, game notes, Photoshop, Premiere Pro. She was killer on spotting too, like photography too. Whatever we needed, she was there, and it was fantastic to work with her. So best of luck to her in the future. Hopefully she can find in the area.
Softball.
What's up?
We also got to give her credit that she has done play-by-play before for women's.
You know what? I do remember that.
I do. Walk-off too, I believe.
The walk-off. I remember hearing her voice, so I do remember that. But
they talk about 5-tool players in baseball. We need to give her a higher number in that department for what she could do.
I mean, she was a softball player at Rhode Island, so
that's true. Very much.
Very good. So
good one too.
But I mean, yeah, that this year, I mean, prior to the whole COVID-19 thing, it was absolutely wacky. And I think it's just like you said, Ryan, earlier, like just get back to the normalcy of sports. Is something that we all need to do, because I'm losing my mind because I want the MLB Players Association to say, let's get some baseball going back. The only thing we had going on was UFC fighting, I think, last weekend, and we got some golf coming up. Ryan, I know you're a big golf fan. So we got the Peyton Manning, it's Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, and I forgot who's the other one in that match? Tom Brady. Yeah. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. But
I'm taking Phil and Tom, though, in case anybody's wondering.
I got to take Tiger. You can't go against Tiger.
Can't go against Brady, though, either.
All righty.
Well, to kind of switch gears a little bit, Carter, how do you feel about your first baseball season kind of being taken for a loop a little bit?
It definitely shows you how you can't take anything for granted, because this is literally how the week went. I was in CJ's van for most of that week, and we had driving down, and all of a sudden we're reading these texts, and people are like, hey, what's this COVID thing? And CJ's like, I doubt we're going to get anything canceled with that. Well, then we get down there, and it just starts flooding around, and then we're all like freaking out. The nice thing is that Dean Hines is Cooper's dad, so we had a loop right there to administration. But it was so crazy to see how the whole world kind of got upended, because you had the Ivy League cancel their conference tournament. You had the NCAA tournament get canceled, and I think it was Big East basketball tournament was at halftime in one of their games. They got canceled. So we were told on Friday that the Saturday would be our last game. Now, it was really humbling to see, because when we watched that game Saturday, because Matt Fouth probably had the most, I would say, the picture perfect movie ending to a career you could have. I mean, I believe it was the third inning, and he had a solo home run over the scoreboard. It was unbelievable. Got featured on SportsCenter. And so it really, that whole experience, taking the back seat to that as a freshman, just sitting back and being like, wow, this is really cool. And a lot of the guys that we have are going to be coming back too. So
that's good.
Great things, like you said, Macy, a lot of people are coming back. So it's going to be really good to see us. I mean, a lot of young talent too. I mean, a lot of freshmen got to play. It was really exciting to see that. So, I mean, it was really shocking to see this season end the way it did. But I think for that group of guys, we found a way to cope with it and close and have closure with it and be able to get out of there with a good feeling of what we did.
That's good. How is your incoming freshman class looking? I mean, have you guys like talked about any of that, or like you said with like postseason and everything, like what have you guys done to kind of keep up with each other, and like kind of like what is your like plan for like the freshmen this year? What do you predict will happen?
Well, we had a lot of pitchers, because this year in our senior class we were losing a lot of starters. So Kyle Strepik, Noah Dressler, Adam Gregory. So a lot of those guys are leaving. Krinnigan as well. So we got a lot of good pitchers coming in. Really excited about that. A lot of lively arms. A lot of outfielders too. So it's going to be, again, a lot of young people. It's going to be good, though, because I think the one thing that we have that's nice is we have a young coaching staff. So Coach Connor, Coach Eckert, and Coach Garcia, the GA. It's going to be really exciting to get back out in the Thunderdome in the fall. And hopefully we have the man Ryan Fahey calling some championship games in the spring, or some exciting games that we have when we get back.
Well, if all goes well, hopefully me and Ryan will be doing that together for you.
See, now that's the thing. I
didn't know I would have Macy as my partner.
I told you this before, everything kind of got canceled.
No,
so I don't baseball with you.
I don't recall that, but that's nice to know for when we do get things back up and running for the next time baseball comes around. But speaking of baseball, I don't know if CJ broached this to either of you. This time last year was the Division III regionals. It was I think yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of the regional starting, if I remember correctly. It was on a week. I remember obviously it was on a weekend, because I had Boomers games that I would do, Cougar games, and then the rest of it during the day, and then I have to drive out to Schaumburg to do the Boomers game at night. and then I had to do like a vice versa that whole weekend. I'm putting together all the runs that were scored from that playoff run, from the regionals and super regionals. So I'm hoping to have that done as well very soon for all the Cougar faithful out there that were part of the run and that were there at the Thunderdome to be there regardless of how many weather delays that we had, because there was a lot of them.
I just remember I was sitting in – see, this is when the senior year, you know, you kind of like tail off at the end. You get kind of bored.
Senioritis.
Exactly, senioritis. I just remember I watched I watched a lot of those games in my AP stats class. So I do remember there was a lot of weather delays. We have another project coming up too. I believe Wednesday is when this, so I don't know when that is, but the Wednesday, so the 20th, I believe what CJ told me is the 1 year of when they won the regional title. We're going to have –
that would make sense as to when it started. I think when I thought it was a year ago yesterday. So
yeah.
That would have made sense.
So we're going to have a video of a live reaction again with some of the coaches and players coming out over a Zoom call. And I remember Braden telling me this. They had 7 tarp pulls over that weekend.
That sounds about right. And I had, I think, about 7 slices of, deep dish pizza during those delays.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, that was crazy.
Everybody talks about the quarantine 15. I'm pretty sure I gained like the Thunderdome 10 with weather delays.
Yeah, I kind of chuckled a little bit because Macy was telling me they had a nutrition meeting, and I'm sitting over here. I'm like, oh, well, on my 3rd coffee of the day, just had a half a bag of Doritos, and I had half a Jack's pizza. I mean,
well, I learned today that you can't drink a lot of caffeine. So you on your 3rd coffee, you might want to cut it down to like 1. Learned today that like I can't remember like what they like test for, but if you drink too much, like it can come up positive in like a basically like a drug test, and it's like I can't remember what exactly.
Is this the commentary I'm gonna get the next time I have her on a headset with me? Carter, help me out here, buddy.
I'll be fine.
Talking about
I know the podcast is one thing, but I mean, when we do this, live and in front of people tuning in, I can't have this. I don't think Sam would either.
Ryan, I figured things out eventually. And it's all fine. The process doesn't matter, the result does. Oh my gosh. You just like making fun of me, and it's fine. It's fine.
It's not that I like to. It just it's like you put the ball on a tee and you smack it out of the park. It's too easy.
See, this is why this is the first episode of the Cougar Playbook. This is why the first episode, because this is a great group. It's loose. It's lively. It's supposed to be fun. It makes maybe just getting to the end, short end of the stick at times.
You know what? I'm used to it, and it's fine. I love it.
But Ryan, you mentioned earlier you do a lot of other roles. I mean, for our viewers at home, if you're looking to follow Ryan on Twitter, Instagram, the Ryan Fahey, in his Instagram bio, you got listed. You got the Windy City Bulls, you got the CU Cougars, Chicago Maroons, Illinois Tech Athletic. You are the fill-in PA for the Loyola Ramblers, and you are the production captain of the Boomers baseball team. How do you keep that all straight? Because that's a lot of ats and that's a lot of people to take care of.
Well, what's interesting is that, with everything shut down, kind of like how we talked about this at the beginning, early on, I would say beginning and middle of April, I wasn't sure what to do with myself in terms of, finding things to do because, even if there was a time where it's like, I have my week scheduled out, I usually know what I was doing, I would say 2-3 weeks in advance. And what was funny was that I would actually send my friends, like my close friends, my schedule and be like, hey, if you guys want to hang out or do something or go to a restaurant or bar, whatever the case may be, like, here's what I'm working, plan around it if you want to see me. Because there'd be times where, I'll kind of just go one by one with the teams you mentioned. With you guys at Concordia Chicago, I know that was kind of more of an on-need basis. And sometimes CJ would send the text. There was one that CJ sent a text the night before and said, hey, I desperately need somebody. And I'm like, all right, you're calling in the righty. So, I'd come in out of the bullpen and thankfully for his luck, I didn't have anything much going on that I couldn't flex around. So I was, that's how I would work things out with you guys, unless there were other things set out in stone from a month or two out in advance, like football and the CIT basketball tournament. So with the Chicago Maroons and Illinois Tech Athletics, that's part of a partnership where I work as the station manager of the Illinois Media School. My office is based out of Lombard. We have 3 stations there, and our partnership is to broadcast their games. Me kind of being the old head honcho over there, one of the things that gave me the opportunity is that I'd be the one that would get the most chances to go do them. Of course, I have guys that would still work for me if, I got busy with other things, at my office or, having games with you guys, or if there was Windy City games that, take priority. Because it's not to say that I never put one school over another. It's more so, how things are structured. And when I've spoken to teams and, the higher ups that, want to prioritize, what they value for me to do. That's kind of where I put my loyalties. So, obviously Concordia Chicago is, right up there, with my loyalties in terms of, trying to move my schedule around to making sure that I am there for whatever CJ, Danny at the time, or even Jim Egan needed to be there. Even if there were games that I wasn't doing play-by-play. The lacrosse game, one of the last events at Concordia Chicago was at the women's lacrosse game, and I ran the shot clock for that. So that was one of the things that was one of my last sporting events I think I ever did before everything kind of shut down. One of the things I also, pride myself in for everything that every team, every place I've worked at or for is, try never to burn any bridges. I've always just tried to be upfront and honest. Like if I say, for example, there was a Cougar baseball game on Saturday, but I had another obligation, work related or broadcasting related. You always have to kind of figure out, what's your money worth versus, there's a lot of stuff you have to accommodate for in that, in a lot of things. And thankfully, the folks at Concordia Chicago have treated me well in all those departments. So every time I've ever had to say no to CJ and everybody, I've actually felt extremely terrible. I guess the biggest thing I always say I put my biggest investment in, because I've actually been asked this, like, what team do you love covering the most? And believe me, as much as I love Concordia Chicago and I love covering you guys, I wish I could have covered Carter this season. I know I covered Macy quite a bit during basketball season. Working in the NBA and in the G League is, it's a dream. Windy City, it's so much fun going to games. And I love staying up till 2, 3 in the morning the night before a game to get ready to do it, whether it's pre-F and post game or calling the game itself. There was a game back in February where one of our guys he couldn't show up, and he was supposed to be on the pre-F and post game, and I was scheduled to just do the play-by-play. So I had to do the pregame show, play-by-play of the first half, host the halftime show, do the second half, and then the post-game show. And I thankfully had nothing else going on that next day, so I could rest my voice, because when I got to the post-game show, I was extremely tired.
I bet. Wow.
I mean, I just remember very active on social media. I just see you road tripping everywhere. You got Grand Rapids. And I mean, you put out your highlight reel, your hype tape on Instagram, and I watched that. It's also on Twitter. But again, I mean, phenomenal work, and it's just awesome to see you carrying out your dreams in the G League, and especially in the Chicago area. I mean, the Windy City Bulls. I mean, that's awesome to be around.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've been fortunate enough the last couple of seasons, this is my 3rd season being on air with the team. The very first year I wasn't on air. I was just a producer for the broadcast behind the scenes. But the cool thing that I've really taken the stride in for what this season was that we did so many more road trips around the Central Division. Obviously, we have to keep it limited to the amount of road games we do just for budget purposes. and other things that we've got going on in our lives that are just away from broadcasting. But the trips to Grand Rapids, we were going to have a trip to Fort Wayne the weekend that they unfortunately suspended the season. So that got nixed because we were supposed to leave on that Thursday, and it was Wednesday night. I'm sorry, not Thursday. We were supposed to leave on a Friday for their game Saturday to Fort Wayne, but it was that Wednesday night of that week that the NBA and the G League suspended their season. And what was kind of the more stinger to that is the game before was going to be the final of a 2-game homestand. So that Wednesday when the NBA and the G League suspended their season, we had a home game against Long Island on Thursday night. I was going to be on NBC Sports Chicago for that game. I had the suit cleaned. I was ready to go. I did all my prep, and then I'm watching SportsCenter. I'm reading everything online, and then the biggest trolling text I ever got was that morning. The president of the team, and I have nothing but great things to say about him, Brad Seymour. I get a text from him that morning, and actually, if you give me 1 second, I'll pull it up word for word because I think everybody will enjoy what he said. So give me 1 second. Apologize for the delay.
No worries.
Okay, so here, this is what he texted me that morning at like 10:27 a.m. And I'm reading this word for word. I realized we went to extreme measures to keep you off the NBC Sports Chicago broadcast, but I didn't have the heart to tell you we only wanted Mark Shanowski on the call. Hope you are doing well, Windy City Brad.
Wow.
Wow.
And at the time, I had to like think about that and be like, you know, that's when I knew, as if I didn't know that I was working with a great team and a great organization and, you know, great people within that organization. But if I wasn't reassured in that text, I don't know what could have reassured me that, you know, I believe I'm working for the best G League team to broadcast their game.
And that's kind of the thing too with CUC. I mean, we have a little kid arounds too with Macy and between us, Ryan. But again, it's all love. We love each other, and at the same time, it just makes working at CUC better.
Yeah, this is a little, you know, we all love each other and we're friends, and that's great. But, you know, the post I made, I think it was right after everything kind of got canceled, and I was just kind of posting some old photos. Macy did comment that on one of the photos saying gag in a photo of Carter and me.
Oh, hold on. Let me pull that one up because I do remember.
That is all love. Are you kidding me? Like Carter just said.
Oh, find yourself a broadcast partner that looks at you the way Carter Gledhill.
Yep.
And then there's a comment by.
It's fine.
Yep, there's a comment that says gag. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. I mean, we did see pictures. We've seen Macy work with CJ, and that was an awesome picture that you guys took, and that was highlighted.
I think we had a group chat with CJ, I believe.
We did have a group chat at one
night
point.
that it happened.
It's kind of gone away a little bit, but we'll bring it back at some point. But
we can name the group since we all have iPhones, I believe, right?
Yes, we can name the group.
Beautiful.
Oh, I feel left out.
I thought you had an iPhone.
What?
Isn't she on the group chat, Carter? Or was she not?
No, she has an iPhone.
Wait. Am
Wait.
I not on it?
I'm confused.
Wait, no. I think we had a group chat, just you, me, and CJ, because he would send us like all of the prep and like.
That's why I said that.
Okay.
I have an iPhone. Don't worry.
And another little fun story I'll share before we continue on is there was I called the unofficial Ryan Fahey Classic. It was at Illinois Tech back in January. It was about 2 weeks before CIT, and it was a doubleheader, men and women, where the Scarlet Hawks of Illinois Tech took on this same university, Concordia, Chicago. And the men's game was first, and I think it was about halfway through the first half. Lo and behold, the women's team walks in, and who do I see? It couldn't have been any more directly across from where I was sitting at the scores table. And like the second or third row, there's Macy and the team, rolling on in.
Oh boy!
I'm like a fly. You just can't get rid of me. I just keep popping up.
I had actually this was way before I even started the season. I think this was even before the first time I ever worked with Macy. Actually, was that with my other job? You know, I worked out. I was like, yeah, I'll work the IIT doubleheader that day. So it just worked out to. I was like, yeah, I'll work the game. I think it was like on the weekend before CIT, and I'm like, yeah, I'll work it that weekend, no problem. And then, of course, once football season went along and then basketball season was going through its strides, I'm like, oh, this weekend's going to be absolutely magnificent.
I mean, I remember you too. It was over winter break or something, and I saw you at a high school hockey game. And I remember because you're working through the Illinois Media School. I just remember seeing you there. I was like,
yep.
Wait, that's Ryan? Went over, gave you a dap. I was like, what's up? And we talked.
I go everywhere. You can't keep me in one part of Chicago or the outlanding suburbs. So.
No, that is entirely true. Well, I think our Zoom call is reaching the 40-minute max and soon part. But again, thank you, Ryan, for everything you do with CUC, for being a tremendous mentor and friend to Macy and I as we continue on our pursuit of sports journalism and broadcasting. But again, thank you for being our first guest on the Cougar Playbook podcast. This will be something that we're going to be going throughout quarantine and the rest of the summer, just because everybody needs a little bit more of CUC in their life, especially us, because I miss going to the Triangle, the CAF, the CAF. I do miss the CAF.
I miss the Den. I miss those buffalo chicken wraps.
You know who I miss Monique and Starbucks. I miss Monique and Starbucks. But
I loved her. Yeah.
There it is.
Look, I was like, she always gave me free whipped cream.
Whipped cream's charged for?
Well, one of the baristas, don't laugh at me, right? One of the baristas is like, whipped cream's an extra 50 cents.
Ooh.
Which is interesting. I've never heard of whipped cream being extra.
All right, whatever. That is so whatever. But again, Ryan, thank you for being on the first episode of the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. The kind words you said, it really do mean a lot to me. I miss you guys. I know we're doing a Zoom call, but, hopefully soon enough we can be working together again in River Forest and having some more fun along the way as well.
Will do. This has been the first episode of the Cougar Playbook podcast.